With the sun behind us, you're live, hearing my scream.
I know, Greasy finger.
Got out, right?
I'd like to call the Board of Light and Power Board meeting to order. Danielle, would you call the roll, please?
Director Crum,
Here.
Director Knoll.
Here.
Director Poliak,
Here.
Director Wetling,
Here.
Chairperson Westbrook.
Here. Next item is approval of tonight's meeting agenda. Can I get a motion?
I'll make the motion. Support?
Motion support, discussion. Hearing no changes, Danielle, would you call the roll, please?
Crum,
Yes.
Knoll,
Yes.
Poliak,
Yes.
Welling,
Yes.
Westbrook.
Yes. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Cool picture.
At this time, this is one of two opportunities here from our general public, for comments. Jim, anything on top?
Yes, sir.
All right, we ask that each comment provide their name, address, and any affiliated organization they may be representing for the record. And respectfully ask that comments be limited to 3 minutes. Jim, you have the floor.
Yes, Jim Hagan, 400 Lake. And what I'd like to talk about is the announcement that Rob made on, during the council meeting on the potential for community solar. And I just wanted to say, I think it's a fantastic idea, and I'd like to ask the board to support that concept. I think all the key items were presented. You know, the timing is very short. And then also the glare issues, but you know, there is glass that's made especially for airports. And the upcharge is not very much, according to GHBLP, it's $10 to $15 per module, which is inconsequential in this, you know, in the whole finances. So I ask you guys to support it, get it started ASAP. Work with the airport folks, the airport board, you know, make contacts as soon as possible. And let's see if we can move this thing forward. It's a great project, 750 kilowatts DC. And I think that's somewhere around 170-ish average residential consumer. So it's not gigantic, but it'll allow a whole lot of people in the city to participate, both the renters, residents, businesses, who knows, maybe even some of our companies if there's open space. Thanks.
Thanks, Jim. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make the motion. Second.
Motion is second, discussion.
Yeah, I think there's a couple things to point out in the KPIs. If you look at our KPI number 2, power supply, you'll see we're pegging the needle there. And it's because we've had in July, we had higher sales than expected. I think it's not really any surprise to anybody. We had a lot of heat. So we're over our budget on that, and you'll see that actually kind of fall through the financial statements as well. So yes, we bought more power, but we also sold more power. And you know, yes, it was a hot summer, so we've sold more power than what we expected. So not a problem, just something to point out. The other item I would point out is on our PSCA. You'll notice that that's number 4, Austin. Normally it's nice and flat for the year. We budgeted, you know, the same for 12 months. You'll see here we have a big change in October. The reason for that is, if you remember doing our rates in October, we're going to change our rates and we're going to re-zero things out or rebalance things. So that's where that PSCA chart is going to drop a penny. So that's why it's flatline and then drops a penny and then flatlines again. So that's all per plan, but it looks different than normal. So I figured I'd point those 2 things out to you guys.
Thank you, Rob. Any other questions from the board about the consent agenda?
What was our P, you know?
I don't know that off the top of my head. It was 60 something.
About 65. 65.
So.
Pretty good.
No other questions. Danielle, call the roll, please.
Crum,
Yes.
Knoll,
Yes.
Poliak,
Yes.
Welling,
Yes.
Westbrook.
Yes. On to the general manager's report. Can I get a motion to approve the 6 POs in the amount of $427,827?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Motion seconded.
One thing I do want to point out is on the first one there, the change order for the coal yard cleanup. The reason for the change order is you guys that are familiar with the site on the gate side of where the runoff area used to be is very low. So we want to fill that in. That wasn't part of the original bid. We fill that in so we don't create future problems with wetlands and other issues out there. If you notice in the memo I sent you from Derek, the change order for that change is $108,000, but you'll see here I have 57. Because other change orders in the project basically was a $50,000 deduct. So the 57,000 is just the above the already budgeted amount we have to go. If that makes sense. So that's the difference in the 108 to the 107 is roughly there's a $50,000 deduct in other portions of the project. So and if you have any other questions about that or the CCR data collection plan, Derek is here, you can answer any questions you would have.
Just time. Sorry.
Understand you might-
Your buildings have an empty parking lot. I'm like, did I miss something? I did.
Well, you drove all the way here. Do you have anything you want to share?
No, just, yeah, that, as Rob said, you know, we had 50,000 total savings with, overall, the overall project, so, that's positive. I was hoping for a little bit more, but a couple things come up and, yeah, with the, data collection work plan, this is it. We're gonna be talking about real remediation options here in the next 6 to 9 months. We'll start off with. This will take us about 9 months to complete. We already got permits in the Eagle, or each area has those moving forward, so. We're getting really close, and this is gonna get us some of those options that are feasible. So. Sorry about all of the time and just collecting data and getting the right numbers to bring us some real solutions. It's an exciting time to say so. We also have a November 5th town hall scheduled, Ryan. It'll be here. The Wednesday, 6:30 to 8. So you'll hear more about that in the coming weeks.
Cool.
All right.
Questions for Derek? Questions for Rob? Okay, Danielle, would you call the roll, please, sir?
Crump,
Yes.
no,
Yes.
Poliak,
Yes.
Welling,
Yes.
Westbrook.
Yes. Stuff is our strategic goals update for financial management.
So I'll kind of start out here, just to give you the same intro I always give everybody. This every quarter, we go through and pick an area from our strategic plan and give the board an update on it. So this quarter is Lynn's area, it's financials. So we start out the presentation with our mission statement, our core values. So I always run through that really quickly. The BLP's mission is to meet our community's expectations for reliable electric service that returns value to our customers and ensures the economic and environmental sustainability of the utility. And our 4 core values are to work cooperatively as a team, continually improve our performance, serve with integrity, and provide value to the community. Like I said earlier, we have our areas of focus, and like I said, we've been picking one of these every quarter or so to bring to the board to update it. And with that, financial management, I'll hand it over to Lynn.
Thank you. The financial management strategic objective that was one of the strategic objectives that Grand Haven Board of Light Power will operate in a manner that manages financial resources to provide rate stability, customer value, and appropriately address risk. The goals we set under that were to implement a 5-year rate plan, maintain minimum cash reserves consistent with board approved policy, achieve and maintain the bond rating, enhance processes for capital operating budgeting annually. Those were our 4 goals. So I'm just gonna go through those goals, let you know where we're at with them. One of them, the first one was to implement a 5-year rate plan, and we did get that a green check. Because we've been working on that this year, and as everyone knows, we did contract with Utility Financial Solutions, UFS, for a rate study. Which we finished in May. We finalized with the board the approved adjusted rates, which included a rate increase, which was rate increases that were revenue neutral. So within the rates, we did some increases, but everything was revenue neutral to the organization. We increased our service charges. We decreased our energy charges. We increased the base power cost to 0.69, which was one of the KPIs that Rob just mentioned. which will then decrease the PSCA. We did a slight adjustment from general service secondary to general service large secondary. And then we implemented those state of Michigan mandated program surcharges in 2025, which was the LIE and the low income, and then the energy waste reduction. So we completed that. Another one was maintain minimum cash reserves, and obviously that's an ongoing one, so that's why we did the 2 yellow circles. We will always be watching this, but we also did this recently, so you probably remember, but back in 2023, we set an $18 million minimum cash reserve, and in end of 23, we had 19 million, about 55,755. In the end of 24, we had 23,281,000 in cash, so we met that requirement. And then now we just revised it in July last month. The policy actually uses 2 methods, which are there on the right. I just gave you a recap of them. One of them is looking at analyzing several risk factors, and that actually is recommended by UFS, and so we look at that. But we also grab the Standard & Poor's global AA rating, and the rating, we picked the rating between 150 to 270 days, which is their AA rating. And have that on there also. So that goes from 11.9 million to 21.5 million. And as you can see, our balance at the end of June was 28,602. So we're meeting that minimum requirement. The third one was to achieve and maintain a bond rating. When we set these strategic goals, we were planning on the building on the island. So we found we took, that was one of our strategic plan goals, and we took that, we discontinued the building. So because of that, we did not need the bond rating. And it is an expensive, time-consuming endeavor, and it wasn't needed, so we did not do it. We actually, just as an FYI, we ended up doing what they call a direct purchase when we did our $25 million bond, and that didn't require a rating. So we did not complete that, but there's a reason for that. Next one. And then our last one was to enhance processes for capital operating budgeting annually. And I just put a little note in here to say that the continuous improvement of performance is one of our core values. So we do that in everything we do. But some of the things we've done in the last couple of years is we streamlined the budgeting cycle by sharing files like through Microsoft, and so people can update. We're not sending files back and forth. We're updating one file at a time, which is helping. We utilize we always utilize outside resources for some of our budgeting, including the rates and the load and purchase power budgeting. Obviously, we just had UFS come in and help us with the rates, and we use MPPA for the load and purchasing power. I have offered a little bit more flexible timelines to accommodate changes. So up until the day we have to send out the board packet for the board. And even sometimes after that, we're making changes when we find out new things or have delayed information coming in. So we're flexible with that. We've improved our collaboration across departments. We compile and communicate details behind the numbers to all the applicable staff. So the AP people and the people who are buying things, we're giving them better reports so that they can code things to the right areas. And then we in turn analyze the variances every month when we're doing the financial statements. And we've always done that, but we're improving that all the time. So that was our last one. And I would say we're meeting that.
And I'd like to add on that, I think you guys know as we went through and did a lot of our policies and some of that stuff, and some of those policies that were new, you saw come before you, where a lot of them were focused on financials. So want to give a kudos to Lynn and her team, continuously looking at that, improving it, and actually putting probably pen to paper and writing down how we should be doing this. So that's the repeatable and attainable every single year. So her and her team have done a lot of research this last year, writing all those policies, making sure we're hitting all those. So she used some yellow circles here. I'd have made them green because we're meeting that goal. We're not behind. That's a green thing, but we're always doing it. We're always constantly improving. Same thing with the red X. I would have put a red check. We're not going to go back. We don't need a bond rating at this time. So like she said, why would we waste the time and effort when we have other things that we can be doing, with that same stuff. So overall, I think everybody knows This is probably some of the best financial shape this Borderline Power has been in, at least in the 10 years I've been here, and I think for a lot of the years that I've been associated with Borderline Power, so a lot of work goes into it, and her team does a great job.
Questions for Lynn on the presentation?
Great work.
Thank you. Yep, thank you very much. Excellent. City council update.
Yes, so in your packet, I did give you the slide deck that I presented to city council on Monday. You'll notice most of them are basically exactly what you saw for our key accounts, because I looked at going to the city council as a key accounts meeting. But there are a few things in there that I did tweak for them, and it really kind of gets to the sustainability page is we've been talking more and more about resource adequacy. And why we're talking about that, I'm gonna have Austin scroll back up to our MPPA report. And if it should be page 18. Yep, so you scroll down a little bit. The bar graph at the bottom. You look there, you'll see that in planning year 3031 over here on the bottom right side of the screen, you'll see we start seeing some negative numbers there. So this is our capacity, our forecast of capacity. So fancy way of saying, do we have enough generation to cover our load? And as you can see, it's done by seasonality there. And you can see in the fall season, we're almost 19 megawatts short. Why I bring that up is that's why we've been talking about resource adequacy. How do we make sure that the grid, Grand Haven, we gotta worry about Grand Haven, but in general, how does the grid meet that responsibility? If you're paying attention to the news, Campbell 3 just got another 90-day extension.
When was that?
What's that?
When was that?
I think today or yesterday.
Oh, very recent.
Very recently.
Yesterday.
Yeah, they wait till the last minute because they can only extend 90 days at a time. So they want to minimize the overlap. So there's another 90 days there. For people that don't know, that doesn't affect just Consumers Energy. Wolverine Power Supply owns 2% of that plant. And not Grand Haven, but other MPPA partners own 5% of that plant. So the Department of Energy is saying to MISO and the grid, we don't think you're going to be able to meet all this. So that's why we're kind of talking about this stuff. So kind of giving you an idea that these will be topics we'll be talking about more and more and more. How do we solve that problem? Because we're talking about generation. It doesn't come online overnight. It takes time. And as you can see, we've got a schedule here of roughly 5 years before something's got to give. And I think once again, I'm gonna be clear, it's an all of the above approach. We gotta be looking at stuff we do locally and what can Grand Haven do as ours, how do we partner with others? Maybe regionally, and how do we partner with others that would I would say statewide type projects. So all of that stuff's being looked at and we'll be bringing it to you and talking about it as those opportunities arise. So small part of that is we were talking about, as you know, we did our customer survey this last year. And one of the questions in there was about a community solar garden. And if you remember, about 50% of our customers said there's some interested. And we also asked, how much are you willing to pay? And as you can imagine, this cost went up. The amount of being interest went down. But there's enough interest there. Our customers saying, hey, it's something we should look at. It's something we should be looking at. So does this meet our resource adequacy issue? No, but is it another piece of the puzzle? Yes. What we're talking about here, and when I talk about with city council, for those that did watch or was at the meeting, maybe something like 750 kW, so 0.75 megawatts. So really what I have here is really a high level concept of things we're talking about. This is not a design. This is not a foregone conclusion. These are, do you think we're on the right path? Or are you guys interested in pursuing it further? So if we're going to talk about a community solar, which I think we've kind of talked about this in the past, one of the things we need to do is start identifying sites. As all of you know, the Borderline Power does not have any empty property. So we don't have any property we can call our own. We can say, that's our place we want to build it. We all know Harbor Island's not the site for many years yet, right? We got a lot of site remediation that's got to go on out there, as well as I believe we heard the last time the city did visioning for that area, that most of the community looked at it as wanting more open park-like space, not an industrial use. So that heard you, let's check that box. So where can we go and start looking? Good news and bad news is, as we all know, Grand Haven's pretty well built out. So bad news, it means there's not a lot of parcels. The good news is it's easy to identify parcels that are available. So it's a kind of a double-edged sword. So that's the one thing we're working on. You know, also, review the funding sources. So I know, Jim's in the audience tonight. He comes and talks to you almost every month about tax incentives and other grant opportunities. So we have been looking at that. It's not like we've been on a rock. We've been talking with developers and other things to try to see how can we use that to the BLPs and the community's advantage. With all that, you gotta roll that into project feasibility. Can we make it work? Can we get the economics down where it's a reasonable cost for those that want to participate? Because once again, the idea of community solar is the BLP would build it, install it, maintain it, and we would sell/lease panels to people that wanted to participate. And they would basically buy a panel, and then they would get credit for that energy generation on their bill every month. So if we can't get it down, or the price of power is so high that we don't think people are willing, we did a survey, the more money you want to spend, the harder it is to get people to want to buy in, right? So we got to make sure it's that. And then that rolls right into what I was just talking about, customer participation. So we're a long ways away from, I would say a long ways, we're a little ways away from having numbers and starting having that detailed analysis, but we're looking at it a high concept. So the picture here, you'll see kind of what the proposed, is that high level concept layout would be. And also look, the picture there is actually kind of showing you what the people we've been talking to are basically recommending is a 30-degree fixed south facing ground mount panel. Some of the other things that may increase the output, they're saying will also increase decrease the economics of the project, and probably not going to make a lot of sense if you want to pursue it. You're not going to get the juice isn't worth the squeeze, yes to say. So if you go to the next slide, Austin, what's that property? This is zoomed out, Google Maps photo of the area we're talking about. So down by the airport, this is part of the glide path. So this is something this is a city parcel, city owned parcel. So on Monday, I asked the city council, what do you think? I can't be going around making plans for someone else's property. So I got to at least get a nod and say, yes, this makes sense. We like your concept, and they all did unanimously. They all said, we think this is something we'd like to hear more about. So same bug here. I'm letting the board know these are things that we're looking at. What we're going to do with the land and all that will have to be ironed out with the city at some other time. And there's option A through option Z on how you do land. It could be, if it's just purely for community solar, maybe the city's got to give us a lease on the property and for the 20-30 years of the life of the project. If we want to do more things there, like we talk about laydown yards or other things like that, then maybe we buy the property and then we can kill more than one bird with a stone, right? We can have more property to do it, because as I mentioned to city council, we use Harbor Island for a laydown yard for a lot of our contractors. So if you go out there right now, we've got, I think, 2 or 3 pole bunks out there, because we can't store them in our yard. We just don't have enough room for when we're doing all these bigger projects. And we've done it historically for a lot of years. We used to use the 3rd Street area out there by the plant for a laydown yard. Those opportunities are going to dry up. The more they're out there remediating the site or redeveloping the site, we're not going to have that. So we got to start looking at long term. How are we going to fill that need as well? So there's lots of other things that the BLP, and it's never bad to have property. God's not making any more. So there's lots of other things to look at here. But with that, I guess I'll turn it over to the board, kind of get your input at a high level. Is this something you think we should continue to pursue?
Kind of go one by one, start.
Yeah, I've always supported stuff like this. I think that having a piece of property that's already there, like originally they were gonna lengthen that runway at one point. That's why they have that parcel. And they're not gonna do that, so why not use it for something? So I'd definitely be interested personally.
Yeah, I think the linking in the parcel, the runway was on the other end. This is just part of the glide path. So once again, I agree with you. I'm helping get more details and kind of jog my memory. That's one of the things why this parcel stands out is right now that's glide path property. It's really not developable.
Yeah, you can't put a building there.
Can't put a building or something there. So it really is it can be, if we do this right, it could be a win for everybody. The public keeps public property, gets another public asset. It's also inside the city, which for us is a benefit because we pay a payment in lieu of tax to the city, so gets us out of any franchise or taxable issues too, so.
I think it's a good idea, really good idea. Good community participation. Looks like a really good spot. I was at the city council meeting and they only had that one issue with, the airport board. And how do we get that? We need to get, some kind of, communication going with those guys to get their rubber stamp. Say it's okay, so then we can start thinking about this in a more formal.
As we start working down this path, that will be part of the process, right? We need to. It's in the glide path, so we have to verify it meets all the FAA requirements, we need to be talking to. The airport board, we gotta be talking with this board, we need to be talking with the community. We need to be talking with city council, so there's a lot of moving parts to go. And to Jim's point earlier, there is a time clock here if we wanna make this go, that's. There's a 30% tax credit, it's about the only thing that's left on the table at this point. And means if we wanna do something here, it does have a shelf life.
Yeah, so we need to get, this time is of the essence.
And that's kind of why I'm bringing up the high level thing, because if. We're gonna apply, like I said, I don't know of any grants out there now, but if we're gonna apply for grants. It doesn't wait for me to go to the city council and get approval, it doesn't wait for me to go to the board and get approval, so. I have buy-in, I can say, hey, let's go apply for this grant and see if we can get it and. And move forward without having to get kind of tied down with all the paperwork that might come with that.
And then could we include the Sustainability and Energy Commission, those guys in the loop on this thing too, we get there?
My guess, my gut feeling is they would play an integral role in it. I mean, a lot of them are very interested in this, I would assume they're gonna be some of our early adopters and. Purchasers, and they'll probably help us do the marketing for it.
I would hope so, yeah.
So I mean, I would look at all sorts of partnerships there, because. You know, we also have our other full-time jobs to do, like, you know, so helping market this and get this out would be. Would be very helpful for us.
That would be great. And we give them participation and feel like they're part of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's an awesome idea. I'll echo the council members' opinion, you know, hey, that's a good vision. So hopefully we can see, you know, more of this. I'm curious, like you said, there's not a lot of property out there. But you know, we do service, you know, all the way up until, what is that, the Sternberg? You know, are there perhaps other properties we should be looking at also? You know, there's some hurdles here, I understand. I'm just, you know.
Well, that kind of goes back to what we talked about in the past with bigger resource adequacy, right? We only know there's certain things we can do in our service territory. There's only so many parcels, so on and so forth. If we start looking at maybe some of those regional type partnerships where maybe you're partnering up with other municipalities in West Michigan. Well, then that's when you're probably gonna wanna really extend that reach out and start saying, hey, where would be, but it's gonna be a bigger facility, right? So is it some kind of turbine or something along those lines to make all this stuff work? One, we can't afford to do that on our own, we can't afford to take on that level of risk. But then you also, you don't wanna put that in the middle of downtown either. So you start looking at that and then you really start to get into the bigger siting issues. And yes, we will be looking all the way from, like I said, you have stuff in Muskegon County and Sternberg all the way down to Ossipoff and you know, we have friends in Zeeland and Holland as well. They're looking at these issues as well. So
I do, you know, like it being within the city boundaries, it truly gives a sense of community that way.
I support this too. You know, again, I think we have to look at the feasibility of it. I mean. The cost, I mean, we went through a financial presentation. We have to look at. You said at the meeting, is this the best option for us financially? It probably isn't. You know, our job as a board is to look after the finances and the affordability and the reliability of what we're providing. But if the community is interested and can fund some of this and have a little partnership, and it increases our sustainability leg of the three-legged stool, I think that's a good thing. I think we could probably talk a few of our industrial people in town to tribute, I know. Shape specifically has got a, if we're selling products now, we have to sell it that we're using 100% renewable energy for new products to BMW and other customers, and how you do that is difficult. We have to buy RECs additionally, so I mean, this could be something that, you know, definitely they could support, or industry could support. That, you know, it's, but I mean, it's a little concerning, how many employees, or how many of our customers actually participate in the green energy program now? It's like 2% or, yeah,
No, not even close to that.
not even close.
It's less than 1%.
Some of this is about, I mean, I know we get a lot of support from Jim and others, but this is a community solar, so, you know, we got feedback from our community, they wanna try this, but. It's really contingent upon our community stepping up and investing in this to make it happen, so I think.
We're gonna try to get commitments prior to us.
Yeah, that'll be something that we'll have to talk back at the board level is what level? I mean, obviously, if the board said, go spend, it's roughly a $2 million estimate to build that is about a $2 million project. Board said, go build it, yeah, you go build it, right? But what is your level of risk? Because once again, to Mike's point, or Mr. Welling's point, how are we going to preset? Other communities have done it where they said, is it 50%? We want to have 50% of those panels spoken for. And then we'll hold the other 50% and let people come and go as they need. Is it 25%? Is it 75%? That'll have to be a discussion that we'll have to bring back to the board before we ever pull a trigger on. What do we need to do? And that's when, you know, that's why I talked about the marketing comes in, right? Partnering with our industrial customers, our sustainability committee, the community in general, just saying, hey, we have this option. If you want to go, we need some commitments from you, because as to your point, we're looking at this and the cost per kWh, it's not the money. It's not terrible, but there is a commitment level here. So you gotta balance that three legged stool like you talked about, right?
It'd probably be better to finance or to fund an MFBA project or a group project than a community solar project. So
I
it's not
can't-
financial.
I can't pit a 750 kW facility against something that is taking up 1,200 acres somewhere else. And I'll be honest with you, Grand Haven is cloudier than other parts of the state of Michigan, right? So our capacity, our utilization factor is lower in Grand Haven than it is in, let's say, Calhoun County, where we bought into like the Ranger Solar facility, right? So we got some factors against it. We don't have 1,200 acres. We're not going to build a utility 100 megawatt, 200 megawatt facility. So you got the economies of scale, and then we also have the cloud cover to deal with.
Yeah.
And the snow, we get more snow here in the wintertime. So, you know, snow does affect panels. So there is things like that, but once again, economics is not the only reason you do a project. If the community wants this, that's who owns us, that's who we report to. When we give them a chance to show if this is important to them, if it's important to them, then
And you work out what percent, and the percentage of our customers, when we asked the Great Blue Research, was a lot higher than 2% or whatever, how many people are participating in our green energy program, and the interest in community solar was like a little less than 50, so.
yeah, and when I say
it's out
50,
there.
when I say 50%, there was 50% that said very interested or somewhat interested, and then you have not interested in no way in heck, right? That was kind of the four answers. And so we took the two answers that were very interested, and some of that gives us that 50%. And then we asked them after that if they answered yes. The subset was, how much are you willing to pay? You know, the number one overwhelming answer was, I don't know. So the first thing we need to do is say, yes, we like this. Let's get some costing. Let's put some numbers down. And then someone can actually have an intelligent conversation or an intelligent decision, right? If you ask me, I didn't know what a panel was until we start laying this out and what we could do with it. So we got to get that information. We got to get it to the customer so they know what they're buying.
Conceptually, I like the idea. I think there's a lot of, still some of those. The economics and funding of it, stuff that still has to be ironed out, but overall, I like the idea. You know, you just showed that slide on resource adequacy, you know, being a big problem, and this doesn't solve that problem, right? So I mean, we need to keep focused on how are we gonna fill that gap. I mean, this community solar program isn't gonna fill that gap, but it's a community sponsored solar efforts. So overall, I like the project. I think if we get people to participate, it'd be great. I think we're gonna have to sell it hard. Be good to visualize. I mean, what would that look like for me at my house if I were to participate? I could buy a panel. What would that cost me and what would the benefit be?
Yep.
You know, we need to articulate that back to people on exactly. I mean, I know Jim's on board. He's gonna buy it. Already signing up for one, but getting some of that information out would be that.
Depends how much you guys allow. Give cash payments, direct pay. You know, like the government will give you guys. You know, there's a lot of options, but you have to sort of lay it out for everyone.
So that's my thoughts on it.
I think it's a good start, great from a PR standpoint. A lot of hurdles to get over yet. Have we considered or should we consider getting like a grant consultant, somebody that does that for a living that, or do we think we have enough in-house knowledge for that? 'Cause that's kind of a specialty.
It is, and I think the interesting on that is most of your developers that do this, so we would have to, shortlist some developers and so on, so forth, and work, partner with somebody to develop this. They have in-house experts that, and they know their stuff, so, as we're meeting with these, developers and people, they're like, oh yeah, this is what you have to do here, we have to do this, you'll need this paperwork, this is how this is the task force you need to talk to, because. Yeah, the 30% tax credit I talk about, right, we don't pay taxes. So they call that direct pay, so. That's kind of a new thing, we've never done that, oh yeah, well, here's the task force you work with, State of Michigan actually has a task force that will assist you in filing for that with the IRS. So. I don't think for this project, we would need that, because. These developers, that's what they do every day, to be honest, to make these projects work. They require the subsidies.
How many developers have you identified so far?
So far, we've just talked with two. So like I said, we're not anywhere close to, at some point, we'd have to probably RFP this and so on and so forth, but right now, we're still at the, hey. We're interested in something, what would that kind of look like? What would be a high level budget? That kind of phase.
Be nice if the consultant had some experience with the FAA as well, because we're gonna be near an airport, so that's gonna be
And one
Another
that we did
government
talk to does have experience when they're like, you guys are worried about nothing. Okay, well, still gotta check that box. It's nice to say, but
Yeah.
show me the permit.
$2 million, is that just like a kind of a ballpark shot of what we think it would be, or?
Actually, the one person came in and said, here's our proposal, if you turnkeyed it with us, that we'd sell it to you for $2 million and we build it, turn it over to you. So it's a good number, but it's not a bid out number, it's a developer coming to us saying, hey, here's what it would cost and here's what we could lay out, so it's realistic.
Okay, good. Yeah, overall, I think it's a good idea, good PR. Good start.
Rob, is there any way you could get on the airport board agenda just to have a little presentation with them?
I was hoping Ashley or Bob would be here tonight to have that conversation, so I'll reach out to them tomorrow.
Okay. So, I think we're good. Chairman's report, the only thing I wanted to cover tonight was I thought Rob did a nice job presenting at city council, this week. I'm not sure if everybody had a chance to watch. Good presentation, it was well received. And, not only with the, community solar and the BLP overall discussion, there was the approval of our purchasing authority policy on the agenda that night too, and city council made some nice comments about the board, and it was refreshing to hear. So, thank you, city council, for your kind words about the Board of Light and Power. And I appreciate it, and Rob, I think you did a nice job with the presentation, so. It's all good.
Other business?
Yeah.
I had a couple of things to just keep the board aware of. We did have a gentleman become a journeyman lineman here in the last month, Ryan LaFrance, so he's completed his 7,000 hours worth of training and his 4 years worth of book training to become a journeyman lineman, so we had a little luncheon to celebrate him, so congratulations, Ryan. Also, yesterday, we had our employee picnic. We had a good time with everybody, so, we had a little luncheon and an ice cream truck, and when we played, mini golf here, so if you haven't played the cities, I'm gonna plug, if you haven't played the cities mini golf course, it's a lot of fun. And it's very reasonable, so check it out if you haven't been there. And then just an update on construction of the building. They have all the foundations poured for the garage out back. They just backfilled around that today, so hoping in the next week they'll be pouring the flat work, the floors and that kind of stuff. The locker room area has been framed in, so if you go in the warehouse now, you'll see a bunch of metal studs and everything like that, so it's easy to visualize what we're gonna be getting there. And the HR office is drywall's up, they're mudding it, getting ready to probably start painting next week. So over the next week or so, that space will be getting, about a week and a half should be maybe getting turned back over to us. The biggest hang up is, you'll see this probably at our next board meeting, is when we opened up the wall between the boardroom and the break room. Found the old foundation and concrete wall there. We weren't planning on that, so we will need to do some extra concrete removal, some steel supports replacements to do that, so there will be a change order coming forth in order to facilitate that. But nothing I would call a deal breaker, nothing like crazy, but it was more than we expected, so we're working with Progressive to finalize the engineering design to get that done, and with Midwest to get us a cost for the additional labor to get all that ripped out. So that is kind of pushed back a little bit, so I would assume right now, plan on being back here next month for our board meeting. We are targeting to be back in the board, in our regular board meeting room in October. I've talked with Midwest, and we're both cautiously optimistic that we would like to be able to have an open house for the week of October 5th, which is Public Power Week, at our facility, which our goal is to have the boardroom, break room done, the HR office and the locker room done, and hopefully I'll say a skin of the outside garage building. Won't be complete, but enough that everybody will be able to see it and know what we're getting at, so. Stay tuned, but that's where we're at with that construction process, so big takeaway is next month back here. And sorry, they're looking at you. And then hopefully an open house the week of October 5th for Public Power Week, so.
Okay. Thank you for those updates. Public comment period.
Oh, a comment, one other thing. Just to note, there's been changes on the dates that have been happening on all this direct pay and so forth. And one thing that just happened was the Treasury and the IRS came up with a ruling saying that there's now prohibited foreign entities out there: Iran, North Korea, Russia, and China. And the state of Michigan had a detailed dive on direct pay the other day, Monday. And they're recommending that projects get underway by December 31st, because that's when the prohibited foreign entity thing's gonna come in. And according to like them, they say it's very, very important. They don't know exactly what's gonna happen afterwards. And it's possible that all the Chinese panels, and what happens if it's a prohibited foreign entity, if you're dealing with them on any project, you're not going to be eligible for any of the IRA funding. So it's extremely critical that if you guys support it, that things happen really fast. There's not going to be a lot of extra time to go back and forth. Yeah. So hopefully that's the last major change that the administration's going to make. But yeah.
Thank you, Jim. We did have one public comment come in by email today, and I was just gonna read that out loud for the public's input. I think this came to everybody on the board. The Grand Haven Board of Light and Power and trustees. I'm able to attend the board meeting this evening. I am providing a public comment by email. I listened to Mr. Shelley's presentation at the Grand Haven City Council on Monday evening. I appreciated his presentation very much. As a customer of the Grand Haven Board of Light and Power, I'd like to voice my support for the community solar project at the airport. As Mr. Shelley commented, this sounds like a win-win for everyone. I look forward to hearing more about the project as it moves forward. Thank you, Pat Nelson, 1820 Pine Court, Grand Haven, Michigan. With that, if there's no other public comments, I need a motion to adjourn.
I just wanna make one other inquiry. What's the 40 MBA doing?
Fine.
But did you get it up and running yet, or
No, no, it's still sitting there waiting.
still sitting there?
Probably October.
October, pushing repair?
All set, Mike?
Yep.
Take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion.
Sport?
Motion and support. All in favor, say aye. Aye, opposed. Enjoy your evening.